Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar for Accounting for Your Career. Each month, we tackle a different career readiness series, and today we're going to be discussing interviewing. But before we jump into that, I want to introduce a special guest here with me, Elena Wright. Elena, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself and talk about how you came to HMV?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Elena Wright, obviously, and I'm a dual audit tax intern, and I'm a senior accounting major at Northwestern. And in my time here at HMV, I've had the opportunity to go out to client sites and audit and help with all the test work. And that's been a really good learning opportunity because you don't get that information from your classes. So I've also been able to help with tax returns and tax. And right now, we're actually doing a data analytics project, so we're getting to learn about that as well and how that helps businesses grow.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit more about that project. What are you working on for that?
So, we're taking data from nonprofits and helping them kind of decide what to do, what the next step is. We still are getting more information on it, so I don't have a ton right now, but
Yeah. So that project that Elena is talking about is our first time piloting in our Shreveport office, and our interns are actually under the direction of our advisory and analytics manager, Rachel Lee Presswood, learning Power BI and other data analytics tools. And so we're really excited about that partnership. And Elena is one of our first interns to go through that project, and she'll be presenting her findings at the end of the summer. Elena, if you have advice to other students that are tuning in on how to get connected for an internship or why an internship is valuable, what would you tell them?
make sure you're always reaching out to anybody. Anybody who contacts you, make sure you reach out, email them back. Always be yourself in interviews because being you is the most valuable thing you can do. Always ask questions in your internship. There's no stupid questions at all. And everyone is always so willing to help at HMV. And again, there's no stupid questions. So make sure you ask because you're not going to know anything whenever you come in. That's just, expecting you to not know anything. So.
That's perfect, Elena. That's exactly what I would tell an intern too. Like you're not supposed to know everything coming in. You just have to learn and watch and ask questions, and we want that. So, Elena, you have been doing awesome this summer in your internship. I've heard wonderful feedback from all that have worked with you. So excited to have you at HMV. And are you on LinkedIn? If anyone wants to connect with you there.
I think so. I need to update my profile, but definitely.
Okay, well, if anyone tuning in is interested in an internship and wants to know what that would look like, Elena has seen both audit and tax. So through that dual internship, she's gotten exposure to both. So if you're interested in connecting with me or her, you're welcome to shoot me an email, jgeorge@hmvcpa.com, and I can connect you with Elena or myself. We would love to answer any questions you have. Elena, I will let you get back to client work, and we're
Thank
going to
you.
tackle interviews.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. So what I want to do now is talk about the topic of the day, which is excuse me, which is interviewing. We have through various other sessions each month tackling different topics. We've talked about resumes and cover letters. We've talked about networking. We've talked about LinkedIn, and today we're going to talk about interviewing. And so this is probably one of the most nerve concepts putting yourself out there. Job search is what do you have to contribute to that company, and how do you articulate that, and how do you let them know what you have to offer without sounding too confident or show off, but also you're the only one tooting your own horn, so you've got to be able to articulate what you can bring to an organization. And so we're going to talk about that today. If you are not currently receiving our monthly newsletters about career readiness webinars, please go ahead and sign up for that. We do send out various emails about our firm, about our service lines, about our culture. It's just a great way to stay connected with us. And so if you're not currently receiving those emails, please scan that QR code and we can get you connected for that. All right, so as promised, we are going to discuss polishing your interview skills. And so we're going to break this down into a few different sections. And the first is before the interview. So we're going to talk about each of the different steps, but it is absolutely crucial to prepare before the interview. All right, so the very first thing we want to do is we want to know what you have to offer, what you can contribute to an organization. And so I like to use something called a skills inventory, where you actually go through all of the top skills that employers are looking for, and you write a scenario that you would use to articulate that you have that skill set. So, for example, maybe you're a computer information systems major, and we know that technical capacity is going to be something that they're looking for. Well, you'd want to go ahead and jot down all of the things that you can talk about, classes that you've taken, certifications that you've received, maybe a really cool hands-on project. So it's important to know everything that you have to contribute coming in. One of the biggest concerns that I hear from college students is, I don't have hands-on experience in my field yet. What do I do? Well, there's something called transferable skills, and transferable skills are skills that you have that you've developed through other experiences that are relevant to your future career goals, even if you don't know it. So an example here would be someone that started a lawn business maybe when they were a junior in high school, and they've managed to keep up 10 plus yards a summer, and they're sourcing their own equipment, they're managing their own client communications, they're taking payments and managing those things as well, and keeping record of all of their expenses and all of their income. That is transferable skills. So maybe you're not maybe you haven't done an accounting internship so far, but you have tracked all of those expenses and things like that. Those are transferable skills. And so I really want you to take a moment to do this before going into an interview, because it's going to help increase your confidence. The biggest concern with college students is not believing in yourself, not believing that you have enough to offer yet, that maybe you don't have that experience in your field yet, and why would they hire me when I just don't have it yet? Well, you likely have a lot of things that are going for you through extracurricular involvement, maybe through volunteering, classes, hands-on projects, things like that. So knowing all of these things ahead of time can help you go in more confident, and just gives you speaking points to talk about in the interview. Now, one of the things that I really want to mention here is providing specific examples. It is not enough in an interview to say, I have excellent communication skills, or I'm great at teamwork, or gosh, I really have excellent time management skills. They don't believe it unless you prove it. So an example for this would be, I have excellent time management skills. That has been something that I've had the opportunity to develop through college, as I worked part-time as a barista at Railway Coffee, while also serving as the president of the NABA chapter, and then also being very involved in my church. So you can see that, through this, I've maintained a 3.8 GPA, but really had to commit to prioritizing my time, understanding how I could tackle things, and so that I could maintain all of those activities and involvement. So you can see, by just saying I have time management skills, no one believes that unless you prove it. So you want to make sure that you provide specific examples. All right, so if you have not already done so, please take an inventory of all the things you have to contribute, starting with education, classes that you're taking, hands-on projects, experience. This can be nannying for a family over the summer. This can be an actual internship in your field of study. This can be volunteering at a soup kitchen. Accomplishments and achievements, skills and competencies. So if you are looking at job descriptions and over and over and over again, you see that you don't have a specific skill that they keep mentioning, address it. Find an online class, watch YouTube videos, get a certification through LinkedIn, whatever it is, right? If you see there's a specific skill you don't have experience with, tackle it, find a way to address that. So an example of this is I had a student that was looking for an internship. She could not secure an internship. And so she was very frustrated. She was like, how am I ever going to take this next step in my career unless I can get an internship? And I said, I want you to go volunteer, go find a nonprofit that you're passionate about. She was a marketing major. And I said, go find a nonprofit and say, hey, I'm a marketing major. I have this passion in graphic design, and, show them your portfolio and say, hey, I want to volunteer my time a couple of hours a week. And by the end of that, she had an incredible portfolio that she was able to add to, build to, and then that further enhanced her ability to get an internship in her field, a paid internship in her field after that. So I'm not telling you to go work for free, but if you can't secure a paid internship, volunteering is a great way to do that. Clubs and organizations. Companies want to see that you're involved outside of just the classroom. We want to see that you are experienced with working with others, that you're in a team environment, those team projects that you're working on in college. Well, that's it's a very accurate reflection of what the workplace is going to look like. A team-based environment where you're having to rely on others, you're working in a team setting. And so being in clubs and organizations is a great way to begin developing that skill set. It's not enough to just be a member. Now, I'm not saying be a leader in every organization that you're in. I would much rather you be more selective and maybe just be a leader in one organization, but really make a difference with that organization. Show that you're making an impact through your actions. And then you can be members of the other organizations. But we do look to see that you have some kind of leadership capacity. So oftentimes I'll tell a freshman, all right, I want you to go and join an organization. Join, 2 organizations. Start exploring your interests. By the time you get to your junior year, you want to be starting to run for those leadership roles. You may not get it, but I want you to put yourself out there. By sophomore year, by junior year, you should be in a leadership role, maybe, treasurer, vice president, whatever it is. And then by senior year, you want to build and grow and continue improving that organization through your leadership. Work ethic. This is something that, you want to be able to communicate through specific examples. It is not enough to say, I have high work ethic. What does that mean? I have high work ethic proven through an experience that I had at Taco Bell where I worked as a cashier. I had a colleague who was asking me to cover for them. It was really something that I was not comfortable with. I felt like I was compromising my morals. So what I did is I communicated that to my supervisor and asked them, what they thought I should do in that scenario. And it was really something that I was able to demonstrate my work ethic, or say whatever it is, right? Values. That probably applies more to values than work ethic, but you get the point. All right. So top skills that employers are looking for. This is something that every position that you apply for has top skills. Whether it's an accounting position, whether it's a IT role, whether it's a marketing role, whether it's a nursing role, it doesn't matter what the job is, there's going to be top skills. You can go to Google. My recommendation would be to look at ONET Online, onetonline.org. It is a really great career exploration site. It allows you to put the pieces together as far as what does a person in that job do on a daily basis? What are they skilled at? So you can go in and type in any occupation, for example, an auditor, and it's going to tell you top skills that they are looking for in that profession. Well, if we know they're looking for that in the profession, then that's exactly what you want to communicate when you go into an interview. So figure out whatever those top skills are for your career and make sure you speak to that in the interview. And so what I would encourage you to do is work the job description, print out the job description if you have a formal one, and next to each one of the job duties, go ahead and jot down just a bullet point of what you would use to demonstrate or describe that you have that skill. All right, so another thing we want to do is we want to do our research. It is absolutely offensive to sit down in an interview and they say, all right, what do you know about our organization? And you say, not really anything. Next, right? It's an immediate you didn't care enough to do your research, they're not going to be interested in you as a candidate if you have not done your homework. So you want to make sure that what does the organization do? Is there any values, or what do they stand behind? You want to know who are their customers, what are their target, their areas of operation, their geographic regions in which they operate. What locations might they potentially be growing to? What is the history or the recent news? These are easy searches, y'all. It's not, hey, sit down and write a research paper and spend hours and hours. No, hit their website, hit their LinkedIn, look at Glassdoor, get some information off of their website so that you can have a conversation. And what this allows you to do is when you communicate back to them in the interview questions, you can relate your answers to what that company does, to what the job duties are, to what that organization is. And so it's a really important thing. All right, practice is another important part. You can practice with your mom, dad, sister, colleague, roommate. It doesn't matter. I just want you to practice. And when I say practice, I mean actually like practice. I would say dress up and do the whole handshake thing and go at it from a perspective of, all right, I'm not going to stop myself and go, boo, I messed up. I want you to go into it and perform like it's a real interview. You can't, stop and say, oh, I screwed that one up. I'm so sorry. Really try to answer the questions right the first time. And what that is going to do, it's going to mimic that feeling that you get in an interview where you've got to begin thinking on your feet and that instinct of what comes out of your mouth in that moment of pressure. And that's really going to help you do better because that's exactly how it's going to feel in a formal interview. And so I would encourage you to practice on your own, practice in the car. But then once you feel like you've practiced enough, go ahead and set up a formal interview with someone that you know. And it can be your mom or whoever it is, but just let them know, hey, I want to pretend like this is real. Let's avoid all side conversations and let's really tackle this like it would look like an interview. And they're going to respect that. That's something that is a very admirable trait, is that you would want to practice as if it was a real scenario. All right. So a couple of things that I want you to think about is looking at the recruiter in the eye, smiling. Yes, interviews are stressful. They're anxious. They're filled with all of this, energy. But we want to know that you're having fun, that you're comfortable with us. And so try to smile. I always talk about handshaking, and it's kind of an eye roll moment from students because they'll say, "Of course, I know how to shake hands." Well, no, not all students know how to shake hands. So we're going to talk about it. So what you're going to do is you're going to grip web to web like this, pump twice, and let go. All right. So there are a couple of ways to do a bad handshake. One would be like a limp fish. So it's very much like no structure in the handshake. The person that you're handshaking with is going to come at it pretty strong. So you don't want to limp fish it. All right. You also don't want to be a bone crusher. So bone crusher would be to try to break their hands when you're handshaking. You want to make sure that you're coming at it from a strong grip. Pump twice and let go. Don't make mention of, oh my God, my palms are so sweaty. That's disgusting. No, don't even mention it. If you've got disgusting palms, roll with it. Or a tip would be to slide your hands along the side of your dress if you're a female. Men, you can put your hands in your pocket and grasp that pocket lining that's going to soak up all that yucky sweat, and then you can shake more confidently. But make sure you let go. I have actually seen this, it was a spectacle, but at a networking event, a student went to shake hands. They didn't know when to let go, so they kind of left it lingering while doing their elevator pitch. It was very awkward. So pump twice, let go, then jump into conversation. All right, appropriate attire. You can ask the person that you are communicating with about the interview for dress code tips. My recommendation is always be overdressed versus underdressed. There are a couple of industries like supply chain where you have to be conscious of maybe closed-toed shoes or something like that. But it's always best to be overdressed than underdressed. I'll give you a scenario here. I had a student that was interviewing for IBM, and they talked with all of their classmates that had internships there, and they all wear sweats every day to their internship. In fact, that's one of the reasons this student thought that it was so cool to work for that company. And they showed up for the interview in sweats. And I got a call from the Career Center director, and she called me and she was like, "You've got to get over here. Your student is in sweats. What the heck are they thinking? They're in sweats for an interview." So I run over there, and the student's like, "Well, I talked to all my buddies, and they wear sweats every day." Well, just because that's their normal attire doesn't mean that was the attire that they wore in the interview to get hired. So that's two very different things. What you can wear after you are hired is very different from what you wear in a formal interview. So make sure that you're asking those questions. I would avoid wearing anything too low cut for females. You really want to be conscious of what you're communicating, I guess is a nice way to say that. Just make sure that you look professional. It's something that you would feel like you could wear in front of your grandma. That's kind of the way I go with it. But don't have excessive jewelry or anything like that. It's very distracting. Lots of bangles on your arm, and you're talking, and the bracelets are just bangling. That can be distracting. As far as colors, I think females unfortunately have a little bit more freedom here to as far as professional dress. Men, it's pretty much standard as far as a black suit or a navy suit or a dark gray suit. Men in an interview, you can get by with khakis and a button-up shirt and a tie. I think that would probably be bare minimum for most industries. I always like to see a business suit, but again, it just depends. And you can ask the recruiter that's setting up that interview. I was thinking about wearing a business suit. Is that something that you typically see on candidates? And they would be able to give you some insight. No, dress down. Okay, khakis and a button up and a tie. Is that okay? If you have questions about apparel, you're welcome to send me an email with like dress yourself up in professional dress and shoot a picture and say, "Hey, is this something that you would recommend?" And I'm happy to give you my opinion on that. All right, so we talked about before the interview. Who are you? What skills are you bringing in to the interview? We talked about doing your homework and knowing who you're interviewing with and what they do. Now we're going to talk about during the interview. You want to make sure that you arrive 10 to 15 minutes before the scheduled interview time. My husband before interviewed for an organization, hit traffic on the Monroe Bridge, and was over 30 minutes late for his interview. It didn't matter how he explained it. It just looked like a bad reflection on him. And so that is really something you have to be aware of. If you're driving to your interview, go ahead and plan to get there early. Don't go into the actual interview, into the company 30 minutes early. You can sit in the parking lot and practice your interviewing, take some deep breaths, listen to music, close your eyes, whatever you need to do. Maybe not close your eyes because I don't want you to fall asleep. But just take a moment to gather yourself, gather your thoughts. But don't walk in more than 10 minutes early into the actual physical location. Sit in the parking lot early. That's totally fine. That won't offend anyone. But once you walk in, you are interviewing. So I know over and over and over again organizations that will give the person that is at the receptionist desk an opportunity to provide feedback on candidates. They're giving feedback on the way they were treated when they walked in. They're giving feedback on, were candidates on the cell phone in the lobby saying, "Yeah, I'm interviewing for this job that I really don't want, but hey, I might as well give it a shot if, I don't get a job offer from my dream company." Like all of those are interactions that you're being interviewed for. Like someone is watching you. And so you just want to make sure that you're aware of that. You want to make sure that you turn yourself on off, all the way off. Vibrate can still be very distracting. I personally have done this wrong in an interview. Interviewed for a company and my phone was vibrating. I just happened to look down and glance at who it was. It was my current boss, well, former boss when I was at that job, but it was my current boss at that time. And I just got so flustered. I was like, oh my God, he knows I'm here interviewing. He knows. And I just, it threw me off the rest of the interview. I was thinking about that and I got all in my head. And anyways, put your phone away, put it on silent, or turn it off entirely. Bring extra copies of your resume. I don't care if you provided it in the application process. They may not have taken a chance to print it, and so doing so just makes you look prepared, and it's really impressive. So have copies of your resume. I always like to see a list of references as well. That's something that we talked about during the last webinar. So if you don't have a list of references, I would love for you to tune in to that webinar. You can find all of our recordings on our YouTube channel, and we've covered all the topics so far. And so if you haven't watched that one, go ahead and give it a listen. Again, a reminder for the references, make sure they know about that before you list them as a reference. The last thing you want to do is have a potential employer call a reference and then say, what? I didn't even know they were applying for that job, or Sarah, who? So just make sure that they're aware of that. All right, poise and body language. You want to make sure that you maintain appropriate posture, shoulders back, not slumped. You want to make sure that you are talking in a conversational tone. Sometimes when we interview, we get very nervous and maybe your speech is super, super quick. Maybe you're looking at the ceiling because that's more comforting to you. Whatever your nervous tick is, you're going to discover that during those practice interviews. So ask the person that's interviewing you for feedback. Hey, give me 5 things that you recognize that I can start improving on. Do this in a way that, hey, give me 5 things I need to change, because your mom or colleague or roommate or someone may not want to hurt your feelings by giving you that feedback. But if you begin the conversation with, I want to improve, tell me the 5 things that you notice that I can make adjustments to. They're going to be more likely to give you those harsh feedbacks. Another thing that you want to do is you want to greet the person. You're going to introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Jessica, and they're going to introduce themselves. You're going to do that handshake, pump twice and let go, and then they're going to gesture you to sit, the gesture for you to sit. They're going to say you can take a seat, and that's when you pull out your chair and take a seat. Most employers will say that in the first 5 minutes of an interview, they're going to know whether or not to hire you. I would even say it's probably shorter than that. I can tell within the first couple of minutes. So make sure you come out of the gate really ready to make the best first impression. So there are different types of questions that you are going to see in an interview. Credential verification, that might be, I see here you have an Adobe certification. Tell me where you received that. So really just questioning your credentials. I see here you have a bachelor's degree from Louisiana Tech, asking something about that. Another one is experience verification. I see here you were a data analytics intern with XYZ company. Can you tell me what you did in that role? So they're trying to question whether or not you performed the duties that you said you did. Behavioral interviewing questions. We're going to talk about this more in depth because behavioral interviewing is the number one type of question that you're going to receive that you just have to know how to tackle. Behavioral interviewing questions are, tell me about a time in the past, because they believe that's the best indication of how you're going to perform in the future. So a behavioral interviewing question might be, tell me about a time in the past where you've dealt with a really stressful situation. Tell me about a time in the past where you've had a confrontation with a classmate or a coworker. Tell me about a time in the past where you've been in a leadership role. They're saying, hey, tell me what you've done in the past because we believe that that's how you're going to perform in the future or behave in the future. So, behavioral interviewing questions. And I'm going to give you a formula for responding to those questions here in just a moment. We're going to spend a lot more time on that because behavioral interviewing questions is it's the top scenario for how companies determine if candidates really do have the skill set they're looking for. Companies like Walmart, Amazon, all of those organizations use behavioral interviewing questions. Situational is where you give a scenario or a situation. All right, so I hire you as the area manager, and you are managing a workforce of 200 employees. You have two of your employees, Tim and John, who get in a disagreement, and Tim goes and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you get the idea. Like it's a scenario. They're going to give you a scenario and they're going to say, how would you manage that situation? Or, how would you respond to that situation? So they're giving you this scenario and then saying, how would you act? A brain teaser is meant to just kind of see who you are, what your personality is. Some top brain teaser questions that I've seen are how many pounds of pizza are eaten in the state of Louisiana each year? How many tennis balls fit in a limousine? Something silly like that, all right? But what they're trying to do is determine if you are given a difficult scenario, will you just fold and say, I don't know? Or will you try to use logic to tackle it? So I've seen a student say, okay, well, if I was trying to determine how many pounds of pizza was eaten in the state of Louisiana last year, I would first start with my house of roommates. There's four of us in our house, and we order pizza once a week on Friday, and we typically order 3 large pizzas. And so if we order pizzas once a week, and that's 52 weeks in a year and 3 pizza. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like they're mentally going through logical steps to come up with that solution. It doesn't mean you have to have the right answer. They just want to know that you can tackle things without shutting down. And the first time you experience a challenge, you don't go, I don't know, and then just not respond. They want to see that you can actually have some creative problem solving. Dumb questions. Dumb questions might be, what do you think of garden gnomes? They're really not concerned about what you think about garden gnomes. They just want to know how you're going to interact in the interview. Are you going to let your guard down? Are you going to let your personality show? These are just kind of fun ways to get to know you. Trap questions are, why shouldn't I hire you? You would be so surprised at the amount of people that actually tell on themselves. Like they tell all the terrible things about themselves and they talk themselves out of getting hired. Trap questions are something you have to be conscious of. You want to be honest, you want to be transparent, but you also want to spin it back in a positive way. So, a great trap question is, excuse me, tell me about your weaknesses. Give me 3 weaknesses. Some people will say, oh, I have terrible time management skills, so I'm often late. I don't like confrontation. And a third one, I'm pretty quiet. And then they end it there. Like they don't say anything else. All right. I want, whenever you're responding to a question like this, for you to come up with, yes, you can say something a little vulnerable, but spin it back positive. You can say, okay, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I used to struggle with time management skills. I actually had a role with KFC, and I was fired because I never made it to work on time. And when I was fired, it really it shone a light on my immaturity. It shone a light on that I needed to get better at that as a professional. And so I really started focusing on time management, setting my alarm early. I can say I've been employed now with Hobby Lobby for the last 8 months, and I have not been late for a shift since. All right, so it's responding in an honest way, but then shifting it back into a positive light. Okay. When responding to questions, speak slowly and clearly. It's okay to say, yeah, that's a really great question. Let me take a moment to think about that. That is much better than verbal vomit, which is responding to a question instantly and you're just going and going and you don't even know where you're going with it. You just were trying to fill the silence and hope that your train of thought caught up after you started talking. Take a moment, pause. That's a great question. Let me take a moment to think about that. If I had to respond to that, I would say you just bought yourself about 20 seconds to what direction am I going? Okay. I got two different ways. Yep, this is a better way. Let's talk this way. All right. So it gives yourself a time to collect your thoughts. Be honest. I mentioned it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be transparent, but you have to talk about how you learned from them. Give positive nonverbal feedback. If you have your arms folded and you're just looking real sad, that's not what they want to work with in the future. You want to make sure that you're comfortable. You know, yes, great posture, but you're responding to their questions when they are talking. You're listening intently. You're shaking your head. That kind of thing. That's really going to be something that they're looking for. You want to make sure that you don't talk negatively about former employers, former colleagues, classmates, whatever it is. It just reflects poorly on you. The first thing that they're going to think is, all right, if they can trash their former employer in this interview, then the next interview, and if I hire them, they're going to be trashing us. So make sure you keep it as positive as you can. Illegal questions would be something like, this position is going to work a lot of weekends. Do you have children? An interviewer is not allowed to ask questions related to family status, age, disability, things like that. So if you're asked an inappropriate question like that, chances are they didn't mean to ask it. So don't go, oh my gosh, you can't ask me if I have a family. Just say, yes, I do have a family, but I can assure you that that's not going to interfere with my commitment for this role or something like that. All right, so some common questions. Likely, I can give it about a 95% chance that the very first thing you're going to be asked in an interview is tell me about yourself. This is your elevator pitch. If you've not watched the session on networking, we talk about the elevator pitch in that. Go ahead and find that little clip. We talk about it for a couple of minutes. But tell me about yourself is who you are, where you went to college, highlight some skills that you developed through an internship or a specific class or a volunteering experience. It is not, I grew up in Emerson, Arkansas. I have a dog named Bradley. He's a Yorkie. It's not that personal stuff. It's your professional tell me about yourself. Having this in your head ahead of time is going to help tremendously. Why? Because I already told you that the first 5 minutes is typically when an interviewer is determining if you are the right candidate for the role. So if you can really crush question number one, man, you're feeling more confident, you're feeling good about the interview, you're going to go into it much more confident. So question number one, I'm almost guaranteeing it's tell me about yourself. So practice that one and be ready to answer it. Not in a robotic version. Keep it casual, keep it conversational, but know your tell me about yourself. Almost every interview, you're also going to be asked, what is your greatest weakness? So make sure you're ready for this one. We already talked about it. Be vulnerable, but spin it positive. What is your greatest accomplishment? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why are you interested in working here? All pretty much guaranteed you're going to be asked those questions. We talked a lot in the beginning about using examples to prove that you have a specific skill versus asking the interviewer to believe you. That I cannot stress to you enough. Everything that you say should be proven with an experience, a class, whatever it is. Show that you have them. Don't just tell them. All right, so I mentioned the behavioral interviewing and how important that is. Behavioral interviewing, again, tell me about a time in the past, because we believe as an interviewer, that's how you're going to perform in the future. So the STAR method is the framework that you can use to respond to these questions. So the first is situation or task. Set the scene. Give the interviewer a situation that is relevant to what they're asking about. The action. Don't use we talk. We did, but we is not interviewing. You are interviewing. So make sure you're using I talk. I did this. What are the actions that you did that addresses the situation that you're talking about? And then R is result. So because you did that action, this is what resulted from it. All right. So three things: situation, set the scene; action, what did you do? Result. Because you did that action, this is what happened. All right. So an example of this, just really quickly, is tell me about a time in the past where you have had to manage multiple priorities, and what did that look like for you? All right. You're not actually saying these things, okay? This is in your head. This is a framework, an invisible framework in your mind, all right? So you might say, yes, that's a great question. A time in the past where I've had to manage competing priorities is when I was employed in an internship over the summer with XYZ company, but I also was taking summer classes. And so I was having to deal with a lot of group projects. So they were wanting to meet during day hours, which conflicted with my work schedule. So I had to do a lot of, taking my lunch breaks at various times, maybe 2 in the afternoon, to accommodate the group's request. I made sure to communicate those things, action. I made sure to communicate those things with my supervisor at my internship, so that he was aware that what I was doing was approved, and that it was for my academic performance. And because of that, I was actually able to do very well in the classes that I was taking and also excel at my internship. In fact, I was awarded this award at my internship for high performance, whatever it is, right? So you can hear the situation: competing priorities, internship, and classes. Action: communicated with my supervisor, took my lunch breaks in the times that met my classmates' needs. Result: excelled in both. All right, you're not saying them, but it's that invisible framework. One thing that you need to be aware of is that some organizations will use the STAR method when responding, when asking you an interview question. They'll say, using the STAR method, tell me about a time in the past you've been in a leadership role and dealt with someone difficult following you. They're not going to tell you using the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result. They're just going to say, using the STAR method, tell me about a time. So you have to know this framework and make sure that you know it well enough that you can respond. Okay, closing statements. I promise I'm wrapping up here. You want to be prepared with your closing statements, reiterating the best things that you have to contribute. Be prepared to ask the interviewer questions. If I get to the end of an interview and I ask the candidate, do you have any questions for me? And they say no, it's an immediate red flag. Candidates, you cannot use the phrase, no, I think you answered them all. That's lazy. All right. There is always a question that you can ask at the end of an interview. And it might be as simple as, what do you love working most at blah, blah, blah company? There are some really, really great questions that you can use to get to know companies. I've had a student before that asked the same question at the end of every interview. She was interviewing like 4 different companies at a time. And she would say, if you had one word to describe your office environment, what one word would that be? One of the companies described it as hectic, and they made her a job offer, and she declined based on that one word. She's like, I don't want to go into chaos. And so you can use these last questions as a way for you to determine if the company is a fit for you. An interview is a two-way street. Yes, you're trying to determine if they are a fit for you, and they're determining if you're a fit for them. So make sure you're asking the questions that you need to. How is a person in this role assessed for job performance? How would I determine if I'm hitting the metrics that I need to? Why did the person before me leave this role? These are all great questions that give you insight into, do you actually want to work here? The interview is not the time to ask for salary or vacation time or anything like that. That's saved for a conversation down the road. And I know that's frustrating as a candidate because you're interviewing and you're jumping through all these hoops and you don't even know what the salary is. But you want to make sure that that's not part of the conversation unless the employer brings it up. If the employer says, hey, let's talk salary, all right, fair game. But try not to do it before they do. You thank the interviewer and then you ask them for a business card, or you might already have their contact information. Okay, so we talked about before, we talked about during, and now the final, I promise I'm wrapping up after. Keys to a successful interview. After the interview, you want to write a thank you note. This can be done either through email or a handwritten thank you note. I encourage both. But this is a great opportunity for you to reiterate all the great things that you bring to the table. It's also another time where you can expand on answers that you feel like you didn't do well enough responding to. Maybe you were totally thrown a curveball and you weren't able to respond, or you did respond, but you're not proud of your answer. It is okay to say, I've had some further time to think about the question that you asked about blah, 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 and wanted to provide some additional insight after thinking about my response. Then clarify. Or maybe you forgot to mention something. I couldn't wait to go in and talk about a whatever, but I forgot in the stress of the interview. I also wanted to mention blah, 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 blah. I was really hoping to bring this up in conversation, but unfortunately forgot to mention it or something like that. So this is a great opportunity to reiterate all the things that you bring to the table. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is leveraging technology. So there is this incredible artificial intelligence that is out now that allows you to use tools like ChatGPT, for example. I was helping a candidate, someone that was interviewing for a job, not with HMV. She was a supply chain major, and she was interviewing for a role. And I went into ChatGPT and copied and pasted her resume, copied and pasted the job description, and said, give me interview questions and responses based on this job and this specific resume. And it spit out all of these potential interview questions and responses based on her actual experience. It was incredible. Another thing that you can do is go to the website, start copying and pasting some content, copy and paste the job description, and say, based on this job description and this company, give me some practice interview questions to respond to. And then you give those practice interview questions to the person that you do that mock interview with, your classmate, your mom, whoever it is. Don't try not to look super deep into them. That way you can be surprised with the questions as well. But leveraging AI is really, really valuable. You can even use AI to respond or to write those thank you notes. You can do a prompt like, this is my resume, copy and paste. This is the job description, copy and paste. I want to write a follow-up email. Please be sure to mention this specific scenario that happened. And it spits out a thank you note that you can use. Now, this is a template. This is a starting point. This isn't the final. I have to say that artificial intelligence is wonderful, but you have to know yourself and what you have to contribute. You don't want it to hallucinate or make things up that you don't have to, that you don't actually have. So make sure you're reviewing those things very well. Some of them come across as very formal. Change the language to make it fit you, but it's a really great starting point. So I would encourage you to do a email thank you within 24 hours of the interview. within 48 hours for sure. Beyond that, the interviewing team has likely already made their decision. I once sat on an interview panel for a position, and the hiring manager told me, he said, we're going to do interviews and we're going to wait and see who writes thank you emails or thank you notes or some kind of gesture of appreciation. And he said, this is such a vital part of this role is building relationships that if no one does a thank you note, we're going to scratch all of the candidates and reopen the role. And I was really surprised that only one person wrote a thank you note, and it was an email. So that's like bare minimum, right? So I want you to make sure that you are doing emails. I would love to see a handwritten thank you note that you drop in the mail. I had a student that was interested in working for Southwest Airlines, and she actually made her thank you note look like a boarding pass. You scan the little barcode, and it went to her resume, and like her verbally talking through a thank you note. Hi, this is Sally Smith. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to apply for blah, 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 blah. It was so impressive. She did it on her iPhone. It took I don't know, maybe 30 minutes to record the video how she wanted it to. She didn't have any like super great editing skills, so it wasn't fancy like that, but it just was a nice gesture. And the thank you note that she sent looked like a boarding pass, which very much tied into Southwest Airlines and their culture and all of that. And so just doing an extra step like that can really show a company that you care and that they're not just one in 100 companies that you're interviewing for, that you really want the role. Okay, so that concludes the presentation that I have for you all for interviewing today. Again, we're going to tackle a new topic every month, so please tune in. Encourage your classmates to tune in as well. If you have any special requests for topics, feel free to send me an email and say, hey, I'd love for you to cover this specific topic, and I would love to do that as well. All right, well, I appreciate you tuning in. If you would like to learn more about Heard McElroy and Vestal, I would be honored to tell you about it. We have amazing internships and full-time roles. As Elena mentioned in the very beginning, we do a lot of dual internships where students get to see both audit and tax. We have some internships in our oil and gas accounting division this summer, also in our wealth management division. So we've got a variety of internships that are available to students, full-time opportunities as well. We have locations in Shreveport, Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, and Longview, Texas. And so we would be honored for you to consider employment with HMV. If you're interested, just shoot me an email with your resume and transcript, and I would love to get that conversation started. All right, it's a pleasure to have you tune in. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.